What if the prayer you've been reciting for years wasn't just a quiet devotion, but a coded message, a battle cry wrapped in Hebrew fire? This isn't just our Father, it's divine warfare, and most of us have been whispering what we were meant to roar. There's something humbling about prayer. For many, it's a soft whisper in the dark, a moment of pause, a plea for help. But what if we misunderstood the very nature of the most iconic prayer in history? Today, we're going to unlock something ancient, something hidden beneath layers of translation, tradition, and comfort. The Lord's Prayer, taught by Yeshua himself, wasn't meant to be a religious formality. It was and still is a spiritual weapon. And here's the thing, once you understand the Hebrew power behind each line, you'll never pray the same way again. Section 1. The forgotten authority of Hebrew prayer. Let's rewind 1,000 years. Picture this: not a cathedral, not a Roman amphitheater, but a dusty Galilean hillside. A Jewish rabbi named Yeshua stands before a crowd. He doesn't speak in Greek. He doesn't deliver a theological lecture. He speaks straight to the heart of his people in the rhythm, breath, and soul of Hebrew culture. When he said, "Our Father who art in heaven," it wasn't the gentle lullaby we often imagine. The word Abba wasn't just a term of endearment, it was a declaration of covenant. In Jewish thought, the Father isn't merely a protector, he's the ultimate authority, the source of justice and provision. To call on Abba was to invoke your full rights as a child of God, not just a request but a legal, spiritual positioning. Personal insight: I remember a time when my family was going through a financial crisis. I was praying more like begging, asking God for a breakthrough. Then a rabbi friend told me, "You're praying like a servant. Try praying like a son." That hit me. I started each morning aligning myself as a covenant heir, not a panicked guest. Within weeks, the atmosphere shifted, opportunities opened, peace returned. The words didn't change, the posture did. Section 2. Hallowed be thy name. A declaration of war. This isn't just a poetic phrase. In Hebrew tradition, a name isn't a label, it's identity, essence, and authority. When you say, "Hallowed be thy name," you're not just admiring God, you're declaring his supremacy over every demonic stronghold, every circumstance, every whisper of fear that dares rise against you. Real life example: Daniel, in the lion's den, prayed 3 times a day facing Jerusalem. Why? Because Jerusalem represented covenant. His prayer followed this very blueprint. He didn't ask to escape the lions. He aligned with the King of Kings, and the lions shut their mouths. That's not superstition, that's alignment. Section 3. Thy kingdom come, a heavenly invasion. Let's talk about Mohed, the Hebrew word for kingdom. It doesn't mean a place. It means reign, dominion, government in action. When Yeshua said, "Thy kingdom come," he wasn't talking about heaven after death. He was launching an invasion of heaven on earth. Too often we think prayer is about escaping this world, but biblical prayer, it's about bringing God's government into it. Visualize this: a battlefield, chaos, brokenness, fear, and then your prayer steps in like a commander calling in reinforcements. Thy will be done. Boom. You just unleashed God's will on enemy territory. Section 4. Daily bread. More than food in Hebrew, the word for bread, lechem, shares a root with milkama warfare. It's not a coincidence. Your daily bread isn't just provision, it's equipment, it's strategy, it's the sustenance for spiritual battles you haven't even seen yet. Personal commentary: have you ever noticed how anxiety fades when you focus not on what you lack, but on the truth that heaven is already enough? It's not magic, it's mindset. When you pray for bread, you're asking for God's portion for this exact moment 10 that includes strength, wisdom, peace, even rest. Section 5. Realignment. Before the battle continues, this prayer moves like a ladder, step by step. It pulls us from human panic to heavenly power, from fear to authority, and the secret most believe our never tap into. It's not just what you say, it's how you understand it. This is why millions pray the Lord's Prayer, but never feel its fire, because they're reading Hebrew power and Greek translation with Western lenses. It's time to go back to the source. Closing thought for part 1. Imagine if we stopped treating our Father as a bedtime routine and started wielding it like a sword. Each word is encoded with ancient authority, not to control God, but to position ourselves under His rule. Prayer isn't begging, it's realignment, it's war, it's covenant. And the next time you say, "Our Father," I hope you feel your spine straighten, your fears shrink, and your spirit rise, because you're not just praying, you're standing in the throne room. Section 6. Forgive us our debts, but there's a catch, let's be honest. This is the part of the Lord's Prayer that makes people uncomfortable. Forgive us our debts. As we forgive our debtors, we love the first half who doesn't want to be forgiven. But the second half, that's a spiritual landmine. In Hebrew culture, the word for debt isn't just financial. It refers to a moral or relational imbalance of breach in covenant. When Yeshua said these words, He wasn't just talking about petty offenses. He was invoking a deeply Jewish principle, that forgiveness is a two-way gate. You cannot unlock heaven's mercy with a heart that clutches vengeance. Real inside. Rabbis taught that holding unforgiveness was like drinking poison, and expecting the other person to die. Sounds harsh, right? But think about it. How many blessings, ideas, or opportunities get blocked not because God isn't willing, but because we're not aligned? Real story. A friend of mine once shared how he couldn't shake the feeling of being spiritually stuck. Everything was heavy. His business stalled. His marriage frayed. Then, during a fast, God revealed it wasn't sin but bitterness. He still carried anger toward his father from decades ago. When he finally let it go, truly let it go, everything began to shift. Deals reopened. His kids started talking to him differently. Even his sleep improved. Sometimes, the key isn't praying harder, it's releasing deeper. Section 7. Lead us not into temptation. A mistranslation? This line has sparked debate for centuries. Lead us not into temptation. Why would a good God lead anyone into temptation? Here's where understanding the original Hebrew mindset changes everything. In Jewish thought, temptation, this saying, is closely tied to testing refinement, not trickery. God doesn't tempt to destroy, He tests to strengthen. Think Abraham, think Job, think Yeshua himself in the wilderness. Key point. The prayer here is not God, don't tempt me. It's God, don't let me be overwhelmed by the test. Huge difference. In Hebrew, you're essentially praying, Father, guard me from walking into a fire I'm not prepared for. That's not weakness, that's wisdom. Personal moment. During one of the hardest seasons of my life of betrayal by someone close, I wanted revenge, bad. But this line in the prayer anchored me. Don't let me walk into something my heart can't carry. I chose to wait, to cool down. And later, I found out that had I acted on emotion, it would have wrecked a project I had spent years building. Temptation isn't always lust or greed. Sometimes it's just a reaction we later regret. Section 8. Deliver us from evil. A Hebrew reality check. This is where the prayer turns into full-on spiritual warfare. Deliver us from evil. In Hebrew, evil isn't just about personal sin. It's an active force raw, something that tears, devours, scatters. Ancient Jews didn't view evil as abstract. It was territorial. It had geography, spirits of oppression, injustice, idolatry. They believed cities could carry evil as much as individuals. Let that sink in. When you pray this, you're not just saying, keep me from bad things. You're standing as a watchman, declaring, I won't let evil take this ground, my family, my mind, my purpose. Story time. A mother I once interviewed prayed this line daily over her son, who was trapped in addiction. Not long after, her son had a vivid dream of being pulled from darkness by a figure of light. He woke up, called her in tears, and checked himself into rehab that morning. Coincidence? Maybe, or maybe. That's what happens when someone declares war on evil daily. Section 9. The doxology. A kingdom reminder. For thine is the kingdom, the power, and the glory, forever. Amen. This final line wasn't always included in the earliest Greek manuscripts. but it has deep roots in Jewish liturgy. It's how nearly every Hebrew prayer ends with exaltation, with the recentering of God's ultimate rule. Think of it this way: every time we end this prayer, we're drawing a line in the sand. No matter the chaos around us, no matter what governments rise or fall, no matter who betrays or blesses you, God reigns. He has the last word, and that's not poetic, it's prophetic. Takeaway: when you start and end your day wrapped in this reality, fear has no place to grow. It might knock, but it won't settle, because your heart knows who owns the kingdom. Parting reflections: why this prayer still changes everything. The Lord's Prayer isn't just a teaching, it's a map. It teaches us how to align with God's nature, anchor our hearts in His will, stand guard over our souls, and walk daily in divine provision. More than a mantra, it's a system of transformation. Think about this: Yeshua didn't give us long theological instruction. He gave us a few lines, and those lines have carried more weight, more revelation, and more power than volumes of religious commentary. Closing for part 2. So, next time you whisper our Father, don't rush it. Breathe it, feel it, live it. This is the language of heaven, the blueprint of the Messiah, and a weapon that only works when you understand what it's really saying. We'll continue in part 3, where I'll walk you through a special historical breakdown of how this prayer spread across cultures from Hebrew to Latin to English, and how some of its most powerful meanings got lost in translation. We'll also hear from an Orthodox Jewish scholar who reveals why even non-believers find this prayer profoundly centering. Section 10. The Journey Through Time. From Hebrew to the world, let's pause and zoom out for a moment. The Lord's Prayer was first spoken in Aramaic or Hebrew, probably with a Galilean accent, on a hillside in Judea. It wasn't said in a cathedral. It wasn't printed in gold ink. It was raw, urgent, meant to move hearts, not impress crowds. Yet, this short prayer, barely 70 words, has traveled through time like sacred fire. Historical thread: in the 4th century, the prayer was translated into Greek, then Latin. By the Middle Ages, it was recited in monasteries by candlelight. In the Reformation, Martin Luther made sure every German peasant could say it, and today, it's prayed in more than 1,500 languages, on battlefields, in hospitals, by prisoners and presidents alike. But here's the problem: translation isn't just about words, it's about worldview. And somewhere along the way, the spiritual DNA of the prayer's Hebrew roots got blurred. Let's take one example. In Hebrew, the word for bread, lechem, doesn't just mean food, it means provision. And not just daily sustenance, but spiritual nourishment. When Jesus said, "Give us this day our daily bread," He wasn't only talking about pita or fish. He was talking about energy for the soul, not just calories for the body. And the word Father, Avinu in Jewish culture, is deeply personal yet royal. A father isn't a casual buddy. He's a source, a protector, an authority. So when you pray our Father in heaven, you're not just addressing God. You're placing yourself inside a story of family with history, mission, and destiny. Section 11. What a Jewish scholar told me about the prayer. I had the rare opportunity to sit down with a Jewish scholar from Jerusalem, a man who doesn't follow Jesus as the Messiah, but has spent decades studying the Hebrew roots of his teachings. And he told me something that stopped me cold. You Christians pray the Lord's Prayer, he said, but most forget it's entirely Jewish. He then showed me a traditional Jewish prayer called the Kaddish, recited in synagogues. May His great name be magnified and sanctified. May He establish His kingdom. May His will be done. Sound familiar? The Lord's Prayer, he explained, wasn't invented from scratch. It was a messianic remix, a divine edit that re-centered Jewish prayer around the coming kingdom, forgiveness, and spiritual warfare. What Jesus gave wasn't a poem. It was a portal, a way to access heaven's logic while still walking in human skin. Section 12. How this prayer connects you to the bigger picture. Now let's bring this home. We live in a world that's exhausted. Everyone's searching, whether through religion, self-help, politics, or therapy. But what if the clarity we crave has been hiding in plain sight? This prayer is not just about you. It's about alignment with something eternal. Every phrase pulls you out of isolation and plugs you into a divine network of meaning. Let me show you. Our Father gives you're not alone. Your kingdom come gives this world isn't the end. Forgive us gives healing is possible. Lead us gives you're not drifting. Deliver us gives you're not powerless. People spend thousands on coaching, therapy, courses, all searching for identity, peace, guidance. Yet here we are with a 70-word prayer that wraps all of that into a daily invitation. Final reflection: why this prayer might be God's countdown clock. So why call this episode God's Clock is Ticking? Because every generation that's recited this prayer has unknowingly pushed the world closer to fulfillment. Every time we say your kingdom come, we're asking for the end of injustice, the end of confusion, the beginning of renewal. And what if God has been waiting not for chaos to escalate, but for hearts to align? Maybe it's not the news cycle that triggers prophecy. Maybe it's the prayers. Maybe the clock moves when the people finally mean the words they say. Final thought: what if the Lord's Prayer isn't just a routine but a prophecy, a signal, a seed, a countdown? And maybe when enough of us begin to pray it with understanding, the final chapter begins. Lesson and takeaway. So here's my challenge to you. Don't just recite the Lord's Prayer, live it. Let our Father change the way you see others. Let your will be done redefine your goals. Let forgive liberate you from bitterness. Let deliver us be a cry, not a cliche. And when you say amen, let it echo with full awareness of the weight behind that word. So be it. Because whether you believe prophecy is literal or symbolic, one thing is clear: the words of Yeshua are not fading, they're accelerating, and God's clock is ticking. If this video stirred something in you, if it reframed how you see prayer, or made you wonder what else has been hiding in plain sight, then stay with us. Subscribe. Join the community. Next up, the hidden geometry of Hebrew prayers, patterns you were never meant to see. I promise you it's not what you expect. Until then, may your soul pray louder than your lips.